There was these two older gentlemen, very seriously ill. They both shared a hospital room together. And one had his bed that was right next to the window, the only window in the room. It would look out into the world. And the other man was stuck in his bed and had no window near him, couldn't even get up. Well, the man who was in the bed next to the window, now he could get up 1 hour a day, and that was only to drain this fluid that built up in his lungs. But that was a golden hour, because he would just talk about what was outside the window, and the guy who couldn't even get up would just enjoy every breath of detail about what was going on in a world that he knew he would not be a part of. The two men, they spoke of their families. They would pass the time away and talk about their kids and vacations that the families went on, and their jobs, their job experiences. And they found out that both of them had military experience. Both of them were in the military. So they had that, and they would talk about their military experiences. But man, every day for 1 hour, that man who could not get up from his bed would live for the time when the man whose bed was next to the window could look out and describe what was out there. Well, there was a park. There was a small pond. There was flowers, just flowers of every different kinds of color that would be in the park. He would talk about kids who would come up to the pond with their model boats and put them in the water. He would discuss about young lovers walking hand in hand around the water. He would even talk about there was a city. You could see the city in a great distance up from the window. Well, the man who couldn't get up from his bed just loved the experiences. And this went on for a long time, days and weeks. Well, finally, one day, the man started to describe a parade that was in the park. Now, the man in the bed, he couldn't hear the parade, but because of the man's descriptive words who looked out the window, felt like he was part of the parade. He was right there, having fun with the clowns and the animals, throwing out candy to the kids. It was a wonderful experience. Months were going by, close to even a year. The nurse came into the room. She had water for both of their baths. She went up to the man whose bed was next to the window. There she saw a lifeless body. The man had passed away very peacefully in his sleep. Some time went by, and the man who was in the room thought it was now appropriate that he asked the nurse if he could have that bed that was next to the window. The nurse had no problem with that, and they made the move. And one afternoon, the man, with all of his might, all of his energy, he propped up and he got himself up on the pillows, and he looked out the window. And it was a blank wall. A blank wall. The nurse came in to give him his medications, and he said, he goes, I looked out the window and there's a blank wall. He goes, the gentleman who had this bed would describe this lake and this park and the beauty of the city in the distance. Because why would he say all these things? And the nurse kind of looked at him and smiled, and she goes, I don't know. First of all, he was blind. He didn't even know that there was a brick wall outside the window. Maybe he said it to encourage you. To encourage you. Epilogue. There is tremendous happiness in making other people happy, despite your own situations. Shared grief is half. But happiness, when shared, oh, that's doubled. If you want to know what true happiness is, just look around you, my friends. Take a look at all the blessings you have that money just can't buy. Remember, today is the gift. That's why it's called the present.